Hello, beautiful ladies. Welcome. It is Miriam Cohen from livekabbalah.com. We are in an amazing month, the new month of Kislev, the month of Sagittarius. And there is amazing potential hidden within this month. It's a month of miracles, a month of light, a month of tremendous potential that I'm super excited to delve into. So in order to understand any month or any Hebrew word, we have to look at its source. So the word Kislev comes from the Hebrew word of kesel. Now kesel in the prophets literally means, it's translated as foolishness. And we're going to get into that. What is the connection between that foolishness and Kislev? Another meaning of the word Kislev is that it can be broken down into two different parts, into kes, lev. Kes means hidden, and lev is lamed vav, which is the gematria, the numerology of 36, which refers to the 36 candles of Chanukah. So within this month, we have these hiddenness of the 36 candles of Chanukah. And the fact that Chanukah, which is a whole holiday of miracles, falls out specifically in this month, signifies that this is a very special month that stores this energy of Chanukah, the energy of miracles within it. So there is so much to tap into. Now it's divided, there's 6 months that is considered summer months and 6 months that are considered winter months. And each of those months are very much interconnected. So Kislev is the 3rd month of the winter, and that is connected to the 3rd month of the summer, which is Sivan. Now what happened in the month of Sivan? Sivan has the holiday of Shavuot, which is the giving of the Torah. Now, when we got the Torah, we actually got all the levels of the Torah. We got the revealed aspects of the Torah, as well as the concealed aspects of the Torah, the Pnimiyat HaTorah, the teachings of Kabbalah, the teachings of Chassidut. And we even got actually the Torah Chadasha, which is the new Torah that's going to be revealed when Mashiach comes. But Sivan and the giving of the Torah is more connected to the outer layers of the Torah. But what happened this month, which is again the 3rd month of the winter season, parallel to the 3rd month of the summer season in Kislev, we receive the secrets of the Torah, the inner dimensions of the Torah. And the inner dimension of the Torah is associated with light or with candles, where there is a revelation of the hidden part of the Torah that it comes and is revealed in this month. Now it says that water is compared to Torah, to the revealed aspect of Torah, and oil is compared and connected to the inner Torah, to the Pnimiyat HaTorah. And the entire miracle of Chanukah came about through oil, through the 8 days of Chanukah, that these 8 lights, these 8 jugs of oil lasted for 8 days. Now, what do we see? That just as in the month of Sivan, there was the giving of the revealed aspect of the Torah, but in the month of Kislev, what do we have? We have a very special holiday called the 19th of Kislev, Yud Tet Kislev, which is a day where the Alter Rebbe, the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, actually came out of jail. And that is a real victory for inner Torah, for the Pnimiyat HaTorah. So we see this very deep connection on many levels between the concealed aspect of the Torah coming into revelation during this month. Now, how is the inner dimension of the Torah compared to a candle? So it says, Kiner mitzvah v'Torah or. That Torah is compared to light, and a mitzvah is compared to a candle. So what's the difference between a candle and a room that is illuminated by the light of a candle, and a room that is illuminated by either sunlight or electricity, right? What's the difference? So when a room is lit up by natural light, like I'm in right now, thank God we have home with beautiful natural light, everything is visible. But what happens when everything is visible? We take for granted the details, right? But when we go into a dark room and we light a candle, and the candle is illuminated by this light, what happens? We appreciate the light in a whole new way. And we appreciate the details of the room in a whole new way. And that's the idea that King Solomon actually says that there is an advantage of light over darkness like wisdom over folly. Again, so we go into this dark room and we light a candle, we appreciate the light, the advantage of light over darkness, like wisdom over folly. And the inner aspect of Torah really is like a candle. You know, we live in a world right now, I mean, can say this more now than ever before, where there is so much darkness. And I'm so passionate about teaching women, especially the inner dimension of the Torah, because we need this inner dimension of the Torah to see through the darkness, the inner dimension of the Torah really pierces through the darkness and pierces through and teaches us what is the truth of the world and what is our inner will and God's inner will. And when we're connected to that, we see lightness, we see the truth, we see the hiddenness, and we understand it in a whole nother way of really, really, really the essence of what's going on in the world, which is that it's all Hashem, and really it's all light, but we don't see that light. So, and not only does the inner aspect of the Torah teach us, again, light up this world, but it also illuminates and reveals that the physical world is spiritual. That we see that all of the craziness in the world, and we have plenty of craziness going on right now, is for a whole deeper purpose. And there's a whole layer of reality that we can tap into when we're connected to the inner dimension of the Torah. Okay, now the Sefer Yetzirah, which is where most of these teachings came from, which is actually one of the original Kabbalistic books written by Abraham, says that every month has a different sense. And the sense of the month of Kislev is sleep. Now, we don't think of sleep as actually one of our senses, and the truth is we should really become more in tune to that sense because it's super, super important for our health and for our physical health and for our emotional health. But this month is connected to sleep. And very interestingly is when we look at the Torah portions read in this month, there is a lot of sleeping, a lot of dreams, right? We have Jacob's dreams, we have Joseph's dreams, we have Paro's dreams being interpreted by Joseph. And it's a very dreamy time. And even the sun sets early now, right? It's dark earlier. It's a cold time. It's more of a time where we should get more sleep. It's actually really important, super important for our health and for our immune system. Now, there are two different types of dreams. So there's one type of dream that really we can dream anything. When we're dreaming, anything is possible. Even things that wouldn't really be possible. You know, one of my kids was telling me a dream that he was on a horse and the horse was flying. And it's that's dreams. And dreams, anything is possible. Our imagination can create anything in our dream. And that's called a dimayom or a chalom. Like it says actually in the Talmud that when a person dreams, they can see an elephant going into the pin of a needle. Now it says that when Mashiach comes, that it says we will realize that we were in a state of hayinu kechomim, that we were like dreamers. When we were in exile, the time that we're in now, we were like dreamers. That when Mashiach comes, we're going to be so in tune and godliness is going to be so revealed in the world that we're going to realize, whoa, we were literally so in a subconscious state, in this unconscious state, that we were dreaming, we were coming from a place of such a lack of consciousness that when Mashiach comes, we're going to realize this, and we're going to realize that we were literally in a dreaming state. But there's also a dream another type of a dream that really pierces, that pierces through the veil of nature and pierces through the material world. And we see things that cannot be observed, right, naturally. And that is a dream that really even could be on the verge of prophecy. And the more a person really is spiritually in tune, we see people that have very almost psychic abilities because they're so spiritually in tune. And they're so tapped into deeper layers of reality that their dreams literally are on a state of prophecy. That when we're dreaming, we actually have the ability to step into a transcendent state. And those were really the dreams of Joseph. Those were the dreams of Paro. Those were the dreams of all of our forefathers and foremothers and matriarchs and patriarchs. And, I really feel like dreaming is not just something that we do when we're sleeping, and that it's super important for us to really tap into that power of imagination. And that power of dreaming is so powerful. There's actually many different teachings in Chassidut specifically, that speak about the power of dreaming and the power of imagination, because we all have to in our lives really start dreaming big, like tapping into that redemption reality where there's whole new possibilities that are available for us. And we really have to step into that, I feel, especially as women, because we are Malchut again. We are the idea of redemption. We're holding that space for that in the world right now. And we have to start dreaming big about possibilities for ourselves and for the world. And that's the idea of the second type of dream, is revealing and seeing beyond the opaque shelling of this world, seeing through the hiddenness, like that candle that reveals the details that really are hidden. So that's the idea that the Sefer Yetzirah speaks about, of the sense of the month being dreams, and its connection to, again, this hiddenness, this hidden layer being revealed when we're sleeping and we're able to enter into that transcendent subconscious state. Now, the organ of the month is the stomach. Now, very interestingly, the stomach is very connected to sleep, right? Like if a person eats a lot and then they want to go to sleep, we know, like we can't sleep on a full stomach. And eating nutritious foods gives us more energy, and other foods that are not good for us can put us to sleep. So we see there's a very deep connection actually between our stomachs and between sleep. Now also, the stomach is called actually the second brain. It's so fascinating. I was looking up and learning about the stomach. It says that the stomach actually has the second most amount of neurons besides the brain. That is, it is like a tremendous intelligence within the stomach, but it's involuntary, right? It's part of this autonomic nervous system, or involuntary nervous system. And what does that really mean? Our stomach literally has an intelligence that it could sense what foods are good for us, and what foods our body needs, and what food needs to be digested, and what food needs to be excreted. Like there's a level, you could say, of almost intuition within the stomach, that the stomach is tapped into really this subconscious transcendent state where it just knows. There's just a certain knowing and intelligence of the stomach of what is good for us and what's not good for us. And again, tapping into this like subconscious, metaconscious state. Now, the stomach is not just digesting food, but we could also say it's digesting information and digesting spirituality, digesting ideas, and incorporating them within our body. When we eat, it literally becomes one with us, one with our body, which is the idea of incorporating from below to above, which is that idea of the feminine, of the awakening from below to above, the nukva, it's called Kabbalistically. And digesting food is also like digesting things that we go through, right? Like when we're in a good place emotionally, when we're feeling good about ourselves, and when our minds are in a good space, then automatically also our subconscious self is going to be in a good space. And when we're not overthinking and we're not trying to like control the world and control our situations, then what happens? Our stomachs feel it. Literally, our stomachs become more settled. And then what happens? We're able to enter into even a sleeping state, a much healthier sleeping state. And the stomach is actually much more settled. There's such a deep connection, again, between our stomach, between our emotional state, and even subconscious state that we're in, and sleep. You know, it's really interesting. I was working once with a reflexologist, this very amazing reflexologist, and she was telling me, she's like, I feel a lot of crystals like on your feet coming from the part from your stomach. And she said, you must be like going through something. And I was. And I was like, wow, that's so interesting that you said that and that you felt it on my stomach. And she said, yeah, like the stomach of all the organs within the body picks up on so much of what people are going through emotionally. And even if people like don't feel stressed, she's like, I know when people are not in a good space from just feeling their stomach, from feeling the acids that are building up in their stomach. And she even feels it on their feet, which is so fascinating. So when we really enter this place where we allow like our brain to shut off, we stop overthinking and trying to control. And what happens and in order to do that, what do we have to do? We have to get a little bit foolish, right? We can't take the world so seriously. And that's, again, this connection of kesel, of the root of kislev being kesel, being foolishness. Because in order to really enter into that transcendent place, to tap into the subconscious and to tap into our soul in a much deeper way, what do we have to do? We need to really be foolish. We can't take this world so seriously. It's like, I don't know, I was listening to the news and all the craziness in the world and COVID, and I realized like I was getting like just stressed. Like even if I felt it, like even subconsciously, I was feeling it in my body, I was feeling tension. And I was just like, you know what, like I just gotta dance. Like I just gotta like put on some music and get into like this foolish state, which is called, actually we call it shtus de kedusha, like foolishness for holiness, because holiness is being happy, is being besimcha, is being joyous. When we're not in a joyous state, then godliness can't be revealed, right? We can't really tap into a deeper part of ourselves when we're feeling stressed. So we see again this idea of the stomach and tapping into like the transcendent part of ourselves, and our sleep is better and our stomach is better. And it really, really requires just like being foolish, being silly sometimes, And so interestingly is that when you look at the story of Joseph, actually he's viewed from his brothers. It says that he was foolish. They said he's a dreamer. They looked at him in this way of almost being like a fool. They called him like a dreamer, like as if he was like almost childlike. But really, what was he doing, Joseph? He was dreaming. But he was tapping into the type of dream of prophecy. He was tapping into the deepest secrets of the world. And he was seeing beyond the veil of what he was going through, which was very difficult life Joseph had. Tremendously difficult life. Full of challenges, being abandoned by his brothers and his father, and being thrown into Egypt. And not only being in Egypt, but being the viceroy of Egypt. But he was tapping into a higher level of dreaming, of tapping into that transcendent space. And they didn't even his brothers didn't recognize that. But sometimes we need to do that again. We have to really be foolish, think out of the box, not take this world so seriously. And when we do that, we allow really miracles. We open ourselves up to miracles in our life. And again, when we have to like dream big, think big, really believe in big possibilities for ourselves and for the world. And when we're dreaming big, then we literally make ourselves a vessel that we open ourselves up for miracles. And this is the month. This is the month of miracles. Now, the tribe of the month. So this month is connected to the tribe of Benjamin. Benjamin, who was the son of Rachel. Rachel had two children. She had Joseph and she had Benjamin. This month is connected to Benjamin. Now, Benjamin is called in Kabbalah, he's called the tzaddik tachton, the lower level tzaddik. And Joseph, his brother, is called the higher level tzaddik. So what is he? He represents the idea, Joseph, of being in the world, being very much in the physical, but really elevating the world, of ascending from below to above, being in the physical world, but ascending up from below to above like a candle. He was very involved in the world, but he realized that this entire world is just an expression of godliness. And his work was really to elevate the physical world up to its source, like a candle. And it says that the temple in Jerusalem was actually built on the tribal land of Benjamin. And what's the idea of the temple? The temple is all about revelation of godliness. Right? The temple itself, the entire essence of the temple was revealing godliness in the world. And even in an above nature way, like the whole month, the miracles of Chanukah was an above nature miracle. Like it says about the temple that it would hold a huge amount of people that was way above its natural, its normal capacity. And even when people would bow down in their service, that the space of the temple literally expanded. So we see again this idea of this revelation of godliness, like this candle revealing the light out into the world. And that's the idea even of the windows of the temple were actually larger on the outside and smaller on the inside, so that the light should pierce out. There should be this revelation of godliness, not only within the temple, but it should go out into the entire world. And when people would go to the temple during the 3 main holidays, and in general, what happened? They would take that revelation and they would bring that back, that inspiration and that revelation, and they would bring that back into their everyday life. Okay, now we're going to go into the letter of the month. So the letter of the month of Kislev is 2 letters, actually. It's a Samach and a Gimel. Now, very interesting that Cheshvan, which was last month, was the letter Nun. And when we juxtapose the 2 letters of Nun and Samach, what do we get? We get Nes. We get miracles. But let's put together this, what's the idea of the Samach specifically and the Gimel together? So together, the Samach and the Gimel spell one of the holy divine names of God called Sag. Sag is the numerology, is in Gematria numerology 63. And each of the divine names of God are connected to a different one of God's essence. And then this name of God called Sag is connected to raising up the sparks of tohu, raising up the sparks of chaos, which are these very high spiritual lights that were actually so high that they couldn't even be contained within the world. But basically it's this idea of these lights, these sparks of tohu, these sparks of chaos, which is raising the material up into the spiritual. It's raising up of the material world to the spiritual world. So when we eat and when we drink and we're involved in any sort of physical act of physicality, what are we doing? We are raising up these sparks of what's called the sparks of tohu, these sparks of chaos, through our consciousness, through saying the blessing, through having that right consciousness. We are raising up the sparks. And again, not only even if we don't have the consciousness, it says that when we eat and we drink and we want it, like let's say we're pulled towards a certain food, it's not only that our stomachs like it and enjoy it, but it's because there's actually sparks within that food that is waiting to be elevated. It's waiting to be raised up. So even if we're conscious of it, but even if we're conscious, it's one thing, and it's actually a higher level, but even if we're not conscious of it, we have to know that when we're involved in the physical world, we are raising up the physical to the spiritual. And again, that's the idea of malchus, of the feminine, of raising up the material world to its spiritual source. And that is connected again to Kislev, which is that whole idea of revealing the hiddenness within the spiritual, revealing like the light of the candle, revealing godliness within the physical world. Okay, now we're going to get to the constellation, or the sign of the month. So the constellation of this month is Sagittarius, which is a bow, like a bow and arrow. So what's the idea of a bow? So with a bow, the more we pull back on the bow, the higher and the farther it's going to go. So what is that the idea? That's the idea that, again, there's this hiddenness within the month. And the work of this month is really to draw ourselves back. And when we pull back and we really try to pierce away and those layers of externality of this world, what happens? It allows us, it opens us up to seeing so much more, because there's so much more hidden beneath the surface. And the more of the work that we do to really open ourselves up, to dig deep within ourselves, which is the idea again of gvura, which is the energy of this month, of the feminine, of gvura, of the spherotic tree. The more we do that, the more we see, and the more we see that this world, there is so much hidden beneath the surface. But we actually have to do that work. And that's the idea of that pulling back of the bow. revealing the hiddenness within the physical and elevating it up. So Kislev, again, is this dark month when there's a lot of darkness. But again, when we have to know that this darkness is all about light. Underneath all that darkness is light. And the more we do of being conscious of it, right? And again, being foolish, not taking the world too seriously, and connecting, then we actually are able to reveal the hiddenness within. Now, another very amazing fact is that the whole potential of the high holidays comes out and comes into revelation in the month of Kislev, which is actually 3 months later. We have Tishrei, Cheshvan, and Kislev. And in this month of Kislev comes into revelation the hidden potential of the high holidays. And we see this actually in the story of Yehuda and Tamar, that it says that it took her actually 3 months to see that she was pregnant. That's when a pregnancy actually becomes revealed. So it goes, again, this concealment coming again into revelation during the month of Kislev. So now I want to get very practical, because it's super important, again, to take all these concepts and make them really practical. So how do we do this? There's this idea of this is the darkest time of the year, and I think especially in the world right now, there is so much darkness. So how do we practically access the light? Now, I really feel that, again, this whole month, the energy of the month is connected to Chanukah, to the holiday of Chanukah, and we see what is the essence of the work of Chanukah. It says that we have lehodot ulehalel l'shimcha hagadol. That Chanukah is the idea of lehodot, which is to praise. Lehodot is to thank, to acknowledge, to have gratitude. Ulehalel is to praise l'shimcha hagadol, for God's great name, for the great miracle of Chanukah. And that's really, I feel like, such a lesson for us of how to access the light within this darkness is really through gratitude. That when we tap into that power of gratitude, we realize that all the gifts that we have and all really the light that is inherent within even the darkness and even the challenges within our life, but when we really focus on having gratitude for the good within our lives, we open up ourselves to really pierce beyond the veil of reality, of the darkness of this world. And that's really just like the bow, the idea of the Sagittarius, the bow, that we have to really pull back. Because again, gratitude is connected, it's on the left side of the spherotic tree, which is connected to the idea of gevura. And gevura really means it's restraint, it's discipline, it's holding back. Because having gratitude is really not natural. It's something that really goes against our nature, but it's at the forefront of the Torah, it's at the forefront of Judaism. Because what does it say? That, first of all, we are called Yehudim, we are called the Jewish people, comes from the letters of Hod, which is the idea of gratitude, of acknowledging something so much greater than ourselves, the idea of humility, of acknowledgement. And actually the miracle of Chanukah actually came through Judah, Yehuda HaMaccabi, which is again the idea of Hod, the idea of acknowledgement and gratitude. And what is the first thing that we do in the morning when we wake up? We say, Modeh ani lefanecha. We thank Hashem for giving us our soul back, for starting a new day. So I really feel like, again, it's so connected to this month is the idea of gratitude and being grateful. And that's really the tool to really receive the infinite light of God. And again, that's something that's really feminine. The idea of Hod and Gevura is a feminine quality of like the candle raising up, elevating the world from below to above. And I think that's really such a powerful tool. And when we do that, when we have gratitude, when we have humility and we acknowledge the source of all of our blessings, and even in our challenges, even in the darkness of our life, and when we really open ourselves up from a gracious place, and when we have that foolishness, and again, I feel like that acting, having that kesel, that foolishness, really even puts us in more of a positive framework, a positive state of mind that we're able to have more gratitude. And when we do that, we really are able to open up ourselves to the miracles, and that every day really is a miracle. And so that's it. Amazing, amazing, amazing month. And everyone should be blessed with a beautiful month, a luminous month, and a month filled with miracles and light for everyone. Have a wonderful and awesome day and an awesome new month.